what were the United States Air Force doing? Were they shooting at these people? Answer, yes. All of them? I don't know. But certainly there were a lot of instances when fighter planes were launched and followed them and tried to shoot at them. They did shoot at them, found in many cases that they had protective measures that kept them from being shot down at that stage. But it was also my concern about where this would lead, ultimately. Mm-hmm. That I was concerned about, still am, and wanted to know more about, thought the public should know more about.
And yet the public knows very little to this day still. I mean, it's shocking, if not criminal, that has been kept from our view this many years later. And so let's talk about the mechanism through which this happened. Let's talk about the intelligence communities that were given birth to, OSS, NSA, CIA, all of it, how this started coming about, and what impact that had at large on society once they decided that this had to be kept secret.
Yes, somebody made the decision that this information should be kept from the public at all cost. And the cost has been very great in some cases, because they have, in effect, taken the law into their own hands. They have become an integral part of the cabal, as I call it, and they just ignore ordinary laws in the sense that if somebody talks too much, they rough them out, threaten, or worse, threaten to take away their pensions, mm-hmm. and in some cases kill them.
Right.
And make this very obvious as a deterrent. And so this is not the rule of law. This is not the constitutional approach to things. This is an off-law situation and represents what has become known as the shadow government, or the alternative government of the United States, which President Clinton made very clear he didn't control, nor have many other presidents.
Yes, in his famous statement, there is a government that exists in the shadows, and I have no control over it.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Clara McClendon, I think, asked him the question directly of why he didn't, in effect, let the people know what was going on, mm-hmm. and that was his defense. An amazing statement, very true.
Yes.
And so they have been operating separately, and I think their main connection to the legitimate government is the receipt of funds, mm-hmm. that they have financial backing.
Massive amounts of off-the-books money.
Massive.
Which also interfaces with drug cartels, the whole thing. It's just
exactly.
a dark morass
Right.
of illegal behaviors and secrecy.
Quite so.
Mm-hmm. And, at disclosure, I think one of the things to me, because I was there with Stephen Greer's group, was so compelling is to watch behind the scenes as these, especially the men who'd been in military their entire lives, were coming forward and breaking their security oaths. And as they did this, I saw men in tears after the disclosure and even before the actual presentation at the National Press Club. And I thought, if that doesn't tell you everything, that these people have been carrying this burden for so long, yet are so afraid, even now, after all these years of the repercussions, and still came forward. I think that spoke to me as loudly as the testimony itself.
Yes. And more recently, Stephen, what's the last name?
Greer?
No,
it's Stephen Bassett.
That's Stephen Bassett.
Right. The other Stephen.
Right,
Yes.
the other Stephen. The 40 people he put together
Yes.
in 2013, the consensus was that all of this had nothing to do with national security. It was greed and power.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And in terms of the secrecy itself, it was so insidious. I remember, now this was in the 80s as a young news anchor, We had Reuters and other reports coming across the wire from around the world of UFO sightings where a local police force had seen it and all that.
Right.
It was absolutely verboten for me as an anchor to put that on the air. Even if I said, come on guys, let's put this on. Not allowed. And in fact, at disclosure, one of the people in the room who was there for, I think they were the local ABC affiliate in DC, when someone in the audience said, well, if this is real, how come we don't hear about it on television? And he stood up and said the same thing. He said, we know about it, we're not allowed. The media, there's a lockdown on that subject. That Peter Jennings had the force of will. Maybe they just thought it would be a sweeps, big numbers, thing, but that he had the force of will to be able to get that out to the point where it was credible enough that even you and others at that level said, I think we have to examine the phenomenon.
Right.
Was absolutely a feat.
Yes, it's really frightening that the press is so controlled.
It is.
So controlled.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And okay, so now one of the areas I wanted to hop forward to, you had spoken in one of your talks about Serpo, and I have interviewed Len Kasten, and I wanted to ask you, and we'll just lay a little framework for Serpo because that was a direct knocked-on effect from Roswell, right? With the EBEs, the biological entities that were captured. One of them did live, the others died, right?
Right.
And so one of the little beings lived, and there was dialogue that occurred between them and our military, or secret shadow military factions.
I think the story I read, and it may or may not be accurate, EB number one suggested an exchange.
Yeah.
And President John Kennedy decided that was okay. And it all started there, and of course the secrecy which surrounded it was unequaled.
It was fascinating what they did to these guys. I mean, here they put an ad in the paper, and these poor unsuspecting souls, I don't know how it was worded, showed up, and wow, they dropped off everything. That was it, off radar.
Yeah.
They didn't exist any longer once they said yes to this project.
And the price they paid.
Oh my God.
I read some of the things like being buried underground for several days to see how claustrophobic
Right.
you were, and I felt awful just reading about it.
So once they agreed to do this project or experiment, they wanted people who were single, had no children, and
Right.
ideally were orphaned themselves.
Yeah.
So essentially, once they went missing, nobody would miss them or be
Right.
looking for them.
Yeah.
They were washed. Their identity was completely washed.
Correct.
They were sequestered in a federal prison. Was it Leavenworth? Federal prison.
Yeah.
For a year or two prior to taking off on this thing, so they couldn't talk to anyone.
Yeah.
I mean, this was intense. And so ultimately the day came when they, according to Anonymous, and this of course is the thing that who can talk about this publicly. So the person that's credited with this was involved in the project, but they're called Anonymous.
Yeah, that's right.
And that's how people try to discredit it.
Yeah, and I think this is the way the whole system has worked, though, that when the powers that be want information in the public hands, that they leak it, and then it's deniable.
Yes.
But as far as I'm concerned, Anonymous was doing what he was told to do by the Defense Intelligence Agency, because the DIA was established, as you know, by McNamara and Kennedy, because Kennedy was worried about the CIA.
Yes.
And they wanted something that was more transparent. And they are, and they're showing here 25 years after, which is a long time to wait. They're saying this is what happened and this is how it happened, and these are some of the things that you should know about it.
Well, it's phenomenal in nature. There's nothing else like it that has been admitted to.
Absolutely.
And so 12 individuals pick the story up from there.
Yeah, but the interesting thing to me is that even though this is in the public domain now, nobody's talking about it.
That's what I'm saying. Nobody knows about it. And if you were to bring it up, they'd say, oh, come on, that's sci-fi.
Exactly. Somebody asked me yesterday, do you believe that? I said,
Yeah.
of course I believe it, yeah.